All right, so it's been like a month since I made a video, so I figured I'm going to make a video to give you a refresher of my current agentic coding workflows. It has changed a little bit over the past 6 months. As you know, I've been kind of working on mission control, building this entire application out, and it's really great. I use this all the time, and I've used it to build out another tool that I've slowly been transitioning my workflows over to use. So the issues I have with mission control is that, again, it is Electron. It's a little bit bloated. There's some stuff in here that maybe I want to go back and remove. Like, it has a built-in voice to text model, which increases the memory that's needed to run it. It's not really intuitive how to work with work trees. It's kind of like a second class thing I added in. And I've noticed as I'm doing more agentic coding and these models are getting more powerful, I have found that using work trees to do work in isolation so that when it's done, you can make a pull request and have your teammates review it. I think that is the peak workflow as of today. Who knows, maybe that'll change in 6 months, but I want to walk you through my current agentic coding workflow using the CLI tool that I built called Nebula. And I'm also going to walk through what models I typically use, what effort level I use, and just any other tips and tricks that I've learned over the past like a couple of months. When you're building out a tool like Nebula, I try to focus on user problems. Like, what is a problem I have as a developer? And the first problem I have is the ability to switch through projects. At work and even on my side projects, I typically have a bunch of different projects I need to be able to switch through, kick off agents to fix bugs and fix features. Now, typically, if this is just work on a side project, I will just do all the work off of main. So I have like the root branch, which is main in this case. And if I want to do work off of root, I'll basically just go here, create a Claude Code session and kick off a task like, hey, can you add a feature to do X, Y, or Z? Okay. So when I kick this thing off, it's just going to do the work directly off of main. And I'm going to go ahead and just like cancel this right now so it doesn't actually do work. But you'll see that it automatically renames the session. This is something that I've noticed that I would rather have Claude just name the session for you so you can come back and at a glance know what the feature was you're trying to add in. And doing this work off of main is great on side projects because I don't have a need to get other people to review the code. I basically just do all the work off of main, and then when it's done, I'll say commit and push. Okay, that is my main workflow in all my side projects, and I'll have many of these things running concurrently. As you can tell, I have like 2 running at the same time. This one's fixing a bug, and this one was just the example. I will say that when I canceled Claude Code, it should have turned this back to green. So let's just go ahead and add in a bug here. I noticed that when I cancel Claude Code, it never actually changed the status back to green from that yellow animation. Can you debug and fix this? So I'm going to go ahead and just kick this off as well. I'll do that off of main, and we'll come back at the end and maybe see if that fixed it. So that's my first workflow. And this is on side projects or, internal company tools that maybe having other people review the code is not as necessary. Now, on a larger project where you're working with a team of engineers and you have processes in place that require engineers to review your code, this is the second workflow I do all the time. So instead of just working off a main, what I would typically do is I'll make a new work tree. And I'll just name this like a test work tree. And now all the work is going to be done off of the latest origin/main on that work tree. And I can just go ahead and kick off another Claude session. I'll say change one random text in the landing page to make it better. Something arbitrary like that, right? And that's going to go through, it's going to make the change. And I can just go ahead and do a git diff in a second to view the changes. I can show you that on main. So let's just say like Nebula main. And we're going to go click that one. We're going to go ahead and look at a git diff. And I can scroll through and see what is being changed on the main branch right now. So I think this is also very important to be able to have built into a tool, is like doing a git diff to view the changes. Also, the ability to quickly switch between these sessions. So I have like a / command where you can fuzzy find anything that you want. So for example, if I want to switch to this one, I can click it, or I can click main like this. Okay, so this one's done. Inside of this work tree, I can look at the git diff. I see that the README has changed a little bit. Great. So what do I do now? What I would actually do is I'm going to say commit and push and make a pull request. Now, again, this workflow I'm showing is what I do at work. I will do the work on a work tree. I maybe have, another codex session go through and review the code changes. I may have, a cursor session open so I can ask questions really quickly using Grok. So a Grok 4.6 and 4.5 I like to use just because they are pretty fast. But I will typically use this just to ask questions over the changed code. Codex I'll use for reviewing code, and Claude Code I use for just like doing the initial implementation in the planning. So in terms of the model workflow, that's typically what I do. And then as far as the effort level, often I could just keep it on Fable 5 extra high. I know it's a waste of tokens, but every single feature I've added into Nebula was added by using Fable 5. And the reason I like using Fable 5 extra high is that I have like a 90% chance that it's going to one-shot add in the feature or fix the bug that I ask. I found with even Opus 5 extra high, there's a high chance I have to come back, retest it, reprompt it, and keep on doing that until it actually fixes the issue. So at the start of the week, I have a certain allocation of like how many Fable credits I have. I typically just start by going through all those. Fable 5 extra high. Maybe it's a dumb idea, but I am on the subscription, so it doesn't really cost much. It's included. At some point, I will hit, my usage. I'm at 96 Fable 5 usage, and that'll reset August 25th. But then I'll drop down to Opus 5 extra high and do all the work in that. And then for codecs, I always just use the highest of everything. I have found that like trying to, optimize your token usage and your costs and switching down to a lower model because it's faster, like Luna or Sol, I find it's just extra cognitive overhead. And if there's a chance that switching to a lower level model is going to is going to deliver buggy code, or it's not going to fully understand your requirements and not fully finish what you asked, the extra time that it takes to go back and fix the stuff that the model messes up on, I found just like using the highest possible every single step of the way is going to be a much better approach. Okay, anyway, so now that I'm done rambling, this one has finished making the pull request. I don't know which one I prompted that one on. I think it's this one. And now we can see down here, there is a pull request that I can just go directly to. I can review it. And then I can also kick this off for other teammates to review. And when it's done, let's say people leave comments. What I would typically do is just copy the pull request, go back to this and say, hey, address any comments on the pull request and paste that in. Now, it would be nice if I could actually like tag this pull request. So maybe having the ability to tag in or click and drag a pull request could be nice. But again, I'm not trying to add in too many features to overcomplicate the workflow. I want to keep this as simple as possible. But yeah, that's something I would probably do at my work job is I would go and have it address comments, fix bugs, fix merge conflicts, fix GitHub issue checks that have failed. Like if your tests are failing on GitHub, I would again kick off an agent to go through the tests and just improve it. So those are my two main workflows for side projects and also for my work, like my actual 9-to-5 job, how I do work on many different things. Now, there is a third workflow that I don't use as much, but I do see a huge value in having this. So I have if I go back to over here, I have an Ubuntu 26.04 VM set up. I'm using Railway. There's other ways you can set up VPSs. But when you do this in Railway, I clicked on copy SSH, and then I basically just load up a new terminal. And now I have Nebula pointed to that VPS where I can kick off agents inside of that isolated machine. So in terms of where I see the industry going, it's becoming a lot more obvious that just having these Claude Code agents and Codex agents run on your work laptops, probably not the most secure or safe thing to do. Instead, you want to have these things running in some type of isolated VPS or in like a Docker container. These things can read files from your machines. They can write files. They can delete files. They could literally do malicious stuff. Although I've seen that Claude Code is very good with its internal sandboxing on auto mode to not do anything malicious to your code base. But still, there is a concern at companies of like having these agents run rogue on your machines. And so having this stuff run in an isolated box where the box could just have, scope down credentials, least privileged credentials to AWS or to GitHub, only give it access to certain repos, only give it certain read or write access to your environments, maybe only give it access to like your lower environments like dev or staging, and have production completely isolated and walled off. Then you can let these agents do more work. You can have them go and triage and look at logs on your development environment on AWS or Railway, wherever you're hosting stuff. And you can have a little bit more certainty that there's not going to be a huge issue with these agents just running rogue on your machine. Now, the second big benefit, which I think is even more important than that, because I do trust these harnesses to be pretty good at not doing bad things, is that you can have these things run all night. So like on your VPS, it's probably going to have a lot more uptime than your own local laptop. You'll probably notice that when you kick off a Claude Code session, it can take 30, 40 minutes, maybe even an hour or two, depending on how big the plan is. And sometimes you want to close your laptop. Sometimes your laptop dies. Like, for example, mine has 20% battery left right now. And so if you forget to plug in your laptop or your internet goes out, then you basically just have a Claude Code session that's paused and you have to come back and resume it, or you have to kind of triage why it crashed. And so just doing the work from the get-go on a work tree, or sorry, on a VPS, on a sandbox, is just going to allow you to do more work and not have to like babysit as much. So those are my main workflows. If you want to check out the CLI tool, I'll put a link in the description. But overall, this is how I'm doing work. And I think that maybe even adding in the ability for a work tree to do its work inside of a sandbox. So like if I wanted to just say new here and say like, I don't know, some more work, maybe have the ability to run this directly in a sandbox. So integrate this with, I don't know, there's tons of different sandboxes. There's like Daytona sandboxes, even Railway has their own sandbox approach. But instead of it doing the work locally or having to have a separate VPS, we could just have it kick off a sandbox, do the work, and make the pull request when it's done. But I'm not sure if I'll add that in yet. I do want to try to keep this as basic as possible, and I'm trying to only add in features that I find are necessary in my day-to-day. So some other things I'll kind of point out with the CLI tool, if you're interested, is you can find things in a file. So like if I were to click on this work tree down here, if I wanted to find where it changed this thing, so we're at Nebula title, I can just say Nebula title. I can open that up. It automatically opens up Vim. And then I can just go ahead and close that. Also, if I wanted to do a grep search, so before addressing users' requests, I'll do a grep search over this. And then I'll say before users request. Okay, so now I can actually open this one up now. I can do some edits on this if I wanted to. Okay, like this. I'll just go ahead and close that out though. I think the last thing I added in was the ability to put notes over a project. So you'll notice here I have a note where I can actually edit this if I wanted to and just say like, remember to commit this. And then that'll update the note over here. I can close that out. And I can also put notes directly over the work trees itself. I've noticed that as I'm doing work on a work tree, I may come back and be like, okay, remember to run a security audit or something. Now, technically some of these things, I mean like running a security audit, that could be something that you have hooked into a workflow, right? I could just have Claude Code be the orchestrator and kick off a Codex agent to automatically do a security audit or like a code review. But some of the times I like to just do it manually. Like sometimes I like to let it implement the thing in phases. I like to come through and manually review it as it's going through, and then I'll kick off more agent sessions. Or maybe I'll remember that, hey, maybe there's like a little thing we got to tweak with how this work tree is doing the work, and let's put a little note here. Now, I'm not really sure if I want to keep the notes thing in. I have to see how much I actually end up using it. If I find that I don't even use this, I might just remove it from the system. Some other things I have built in is the ability to switch hosts. So you can actually add in like a new host here. If you have a root at IP, you can add it in, and then later on you can easily switch between hosts to connect to maybe different VPSs, depending on if you work on different projects that you want to keep secured. Also, the ability to switch workspaces. So if I press W, I can actually just switch to a completely different workspace. And I can bring in a different project here. Yeah, let's do like Knowles Glass, and I'll import this one. So now I have a workspace that is for a specific group of projects. So as an example, let's say at work, you work with many different clients, and those clients have different Git repos. You could have a workspace that groups all those client repos together, and then you can go and kick off some tasks to do some work, and you can switch back to your own projects over here in this workspace. That's kind of the idea of workspaces. And again, I think Herder, I kind of took inspiration from Herder for that as well. Anyway, if you guys are interested in checking this out, I'll put a link in the description, but I wanted to walk you through my current workflows. But leave a comment below if there's something that you think I should definitely change in terms of my workflow to be more efficient. All right, anyway, have a good day. Happy coding.